Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday evening, which means it is match preview show. And it is also, for the final time this season, preview show, because Saturday at 12:30, now in front of the Sky Sports cameras, Gills will kick off against Rotherham United. A game absolutely huge for both sides. Gills will need at least a point and hope the results go their way in other grounds to secure their safety in League One. Saturday's opponents, the Millers, can still finish third. They can drop into the playoffs. They can still finish second. They can still win the title. Nothing decided. Not good for the nerves. Anyway, without further ado, I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Rotherham fan Will Daniels this evening for this preview chat. I will leave his Twitter handle in the description at the bottom of the YouTube video, so go and give him a follow, whether you're a Gills fan, whether you're a Rotherham fan. First of all, Will, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening. How's the nerves?
To be honest, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I did feel all right, and then you did that introduction, and now my heart's beating like it's not beaten for a long time. So yeah, a lot worse.
Yeah, it's so much riding on it for both sides. I mean, I see Gills tweet Wednesday, and it came out and said the game's been selected for live coverage, which normally you think great money, fills the coffers, but we're horrendous on the box. So there's half of me that thinking you might as well just relegate us now on Thursday evening. But then you start thinking law of averages. We have to win on the telly eventually. I think the last time we won on the telly was against Wolves, when they absolutely ran away with this division in 2013-14. Absolutely battered us for 90 minutes. And then Cody McDonald scored in the last minute and we won 1-0. So fingers crossed for maybe not a similar performance and getting battered for 90 minutes, but certainly a similar result. But yeah, a huge game for both clubs, and I can totally understand why it has been picked for the Sky coverage. But let's have a look at the current form of both sides. A little bit patchy, I think is fair to say, for both. Gills, only one win in their last six, 2 defeats and 3 draws. So it's 6 points from 18 for Neil Harris's men. We are currently on a winless run of 5, which is Harris's longest stretch without a win since taking over on transfer deadline day, which is a little bit concerning. In terms of Paul Warren's charges, 2 wins, a draw and 3 defeats in their last 6 in League One. So it's 7 points from 18. So 1 point better off overall. Breaking it down a bit further, at home, the Gills, it's no win in 6. It's 4 draws, 2 defeats, but there have been creditable draws in there against the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and Wycombe Wanderers, both teams that can still finish in the playoffs. One could miss out with 83 points, which is absolutely astonishing. The Millers on the road, no win in 5. So there's only a single win. That was 6 games ago, a couple of draws, then a couple of defeats, and then another draw. So it's 6 points from 18. So fairly similar again in terms of recent form. What are you thinking, Will? Gut instinct at the moment in terms of coming down Saturday?
I mean, in terms of the stats that you've just fired at us there, the away record doesn't actually look particularly good. But if you look at how we've played in those games, I think we probably should have taken a lot more points than we actually have. Mm-hmm. We have dropped off slightly since sort of February sort of time, and March was a really difficult month for us, and there was a lot of mental fatigue, I think, within the side. And since we've come back, we've performed really well, and just maybe not concentrated at points in the game, and that's cost us. We've been a side that's created quite a lot of chances and maybe not taken them, whereas in the period between January, February, when we were getting results, there were a lot of games that were very low margin, and we were winning those sorts of games. So I think there's a little bit of variance at play there. At the same time, we were 15 points clear of MK when we played them at half time, and MK have essentially just seen this now as a free hit to come and have a go at us for this automatic promotion place, and it's made it very, very difficult for us. So I guess, in answer to your question, how am I feeling about this? Very, very nervous, because we shouldn't really be at this point. I think we should have been home and hosed, but this is the situation that we're in. And the performances, certainly over the last couple of weeks also, have been much, much better. I think we were good value for 3 points last night, albeit for a Michael Heckway unbelievable header into his own net. And really good value against Ipswich and Oxford as well. So the performances have been there. We just haven't picked up the points, sadly, to get this over the line. But that's what we've got to do Saturday.
That's it. Yeah, no, it's the same for us as well. And it's interesting that you say like games where you've not picked up points and you probably deserve more. We could say that against probably the two hardest teams that we played at home in the last few weeks, Sheffield Wednesday and Wycombe. We probably could have won both of them, should have won both of them. Fleetwood, Easter Monday, ticket deal, big crowd. We didn't really react really well to it for the first half hour or so, and everything was a bit flat. And then the double sending off that everyone's seen over social media for the last 10 days, it's a weird one on me, but that kind of killed everything a little bit. And both teams then it looked like were playing within themselves and making sure that they didn't lose, which was a shame because Neil Harris generally has been very brave. He was brave in the Wycombe game, took off a centre back at half time, went to a 4-4-2 diamond and got us on the ball up the pitch and should have won that one, should have beaten Sheffield Wednesday as well. And 4 more points, we'd be sat here having this chat and I'd be certainly less stressed than you would be as well. So, but then if you'd picked up more points, you'd be less stressed and we could be having a beer and thinking about the summer already. We'd be safe, you'd be Championship club. But we all know football don't quite work like that as well. But yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, I'm not sure how we're going to approach it because obviously we've got to keep an eye on other games. You've got to keep on an eye on other games because if you know that the MK Dons score early doors at Plymouth, which is another huge game as well, if we see that Fleetwood score at Bolton or if Bolton score, then obviously a draw is good enough for us. So it's going to be, everything could end up being a little bit reactive. And I know we shouldn't do that. And I'm sure both Paul Warner and Neil Harris are going to try and not do that, but you're going to know scores. It's going to come in round the ground at some point from your fans and from our fans. So it's a really interesting and intriguing way to see how both sides and both sets of coaching staff approach the game. But yeah, I think we said earlier on or before we started talking on air, we've only lost twice at home under Neil Harris. We've only won twice as well. So 4 draws from 8 games. Them 2 wins came in his first 2 matches, beating Crewe and Cambridge to get us to this position. And like you said, about you shouldn't be in this position. You in your head, you probably should be up. But if someone had said to us transfer deadline day when Neil Harris walked into the building that we needed a point or 3 points against Rotherham to stay in the division, we'd have probably gone, we'll take that. We know it'll be an hard game, but to even be in that position, I mean, we were 4 points out at one point. He turned us around 14 points difference, but then Morecambe started picking up. The others haven't really. That's helped us out. We're not sitting here and saying that this is all because we've won loads of games. It's the fact that Fleetwood and Doncaster and Wimbledon have just been unable to pick up victories that we was able to get the gap back so quickly. But you've conceded 6 in your last 3 away games. But I think up until a certain point in the season, you had like the best away defensive record in the entire country. I think somewhere that you'd only conceded 5 goals up until about February, March away from home. Why has it changed in the last few weeks? Can you put your finger on it?
That's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, we actually hadn't conceded in the first half away from home until we played Pompey two or 3 weeks ago, which is just insane. Like, just I've never seen anything like it. I think a lot of it, as I mentioned, has come down to a little bit of mental fatigue. And just in those big games, you've played a lot of games in quick proximity, and you don't get the opportunity on the training ground to address maybe some of the issues that you might have had. So I think there's an element of that. Teams have taken their chances against us, which is disappointing from our perspective. But that's just is what it is. And I think we've just got Romani Edmonds-Green coming back into the side, who has been out injured. So for the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks or so, he's been back in the side, and we've looked at a little bit more solid with him back in there. But before, we were conceding a few too many chances for my liking. But hope that sort of answers your question, maybe. Don't know.
No, I think so. Yeah, it's fine. It's a good answer. And obviously we're hoping that you can see too many chances on Saturday, but we don't create loads. You'll see that the way we play, we have to. Last season we had Alex McDonald played wide left predominantly. We had Jordan Graham who went up to the Championship, played wide right. We was able to get high up the pitch and get really good balls into the box from inside the final third, whether that was getting to the byline and whipping them 6-yard line or chopping back onto left or right foot and playing balls far post. And Verdane Oliver thrives on that sort of service, whereas everything's been very narrow and very pedestrian this year. We've had Danny Lloyd ruptured his ACL in Neil Harris's second game in charge, who'd been really good up until that point. Mustafa Carriol played in the Championship, but he's made of glass. He's missed, I think he's played 45 minutes or something under Neil Harris.
Oh, wow.
But we'll get on to him when we do the team news. So, yeah, everything's been a very narrow and very predictable and very slow. And even like the youngster Gerald Sitole, who scored a couple of goals in the cup for us, who's got loads and loads of natural pace. He's been missing for the last sort of 6 weeks. He's been on the bench in the last couple of games, but he's sort of been nursed through it. And then we've got to deal with Charlie Kelman being suspended, who just started to build up a decent partnership with Big V. So that's all had to change. We had to switch the shape against Portsmouth and played almost 2 number 10s, and it didn't really work.
I
but
mean,
yeah,
just
go on, carry on.
just looking at the stats, just that I've looked at. You mentioned, it's been a problem creating chances for you guys. You've actually created the least amount of chances from open play, according to Opta, in the entire league. So you should have scored, according to your expected goals, 23.2 goals this season. Scored 16 goals, and obviously, at any level, that's not going to keep you in league.
No, it's not.
But also, equally, you are the 6th best side for creating chances from set pieces. So that's going to be something that we need to consider on Saturday.
Yeah, if we can get our delivery right from corners, throw-ins, we also have Ryan Jackson's long throw, which is an absolute missile. I mean, for me, it's better than a set-piece corner because it just goes in a straight line. You can get it where you want it to go, and we've scored a few goals from that indirectly or directly this season as well. So that'll be a weapon that needs to be kept an eye on, and hopefully something that we can use to our advantage, because we don't have enough creativity in open play. And you've said that, and you don't even have to look at Opta or Y-Scout or anything like that. Being a Gills fan, just watch us every week and you'll understand that it's been pretty slim pickings, unfortunately. Let's talk about Rotherham, though. Obviously, we want Gills fans to get a better overview of Rotherham, the Millers and their manager and some of their players. And so I've written a couple of names down. Obviously, Michael Smith jumps off the page, having the season of his life. He's got 19, I think it is, in 44 in the league. He's got 25 in all competitions this season. Been absolutely superb. Was in the league, Sky Bet League One Team of the Year, I do believe.
He was, yeah.
Morecambe fans, look away now, because I think obviously there was a big case for Cole Stockton getting in. Not that I'm saying that Michael Smith shouldn't be in there, of course. He's been very, very good and could ultimately get you into the Championship, back into the Championship at the first time of asking. Freddie Ladapo as well, I think is fairly local to Kent as a youngster. I think it was at Margate and Crystal Palace. Always seems to score against us. I remember him scoring a couple of times for us, when he was at Plymouth as well. So, and at someone else as well a few years ago. So he might come back to haunt us again. He's got 11 in 31 in the league, 15 in all competitions. So 2 strikers obviously at the top of their game this season. I'm not sure Ladapo plays as much as Michael Smith, but 2 decent options to call upon and something we'd love. They both walk into our 11 at the moment. How good have they both been?
I mean, in terms of Smudge to start with, or Michael Smith, as you know him, he's for me the best EFL target man that there is. But there's so much more to his game. He runs the channels really well, and he gets battered and bruised game in, game out without any refereeing protection, which Gills fans will understand
Verdane
that
Oliver,
feeling. Yeah. Verdane Oliver and Michael Smith have actually given away the most fouls in League One this season. But he brings so much to our game in terms of the way that he holds the ball up. And it's no surprise with the amount of crosses that we put into the box, nearly 200 more than anyone in League One this season, that he's scored the amount of goals that he has. And I'd be surprised, if we're able to keep him in the summer because of the level that he's maintained throughout the season.
Even if
Freddie
you go up,
has...
Even if you go up, even if you go up, you think you struggle to keep him, or?
Yeah, I think he's a Championship striker that will be able to command a higher wage packet, than we're able to offer, sadly. But Saturday could be his last game for us. Hopefully not. But I'm just going to enjoy the moments while we can, because this side for me is the best Rotherham United side that I've had the pleasure of seeing. Mm-hmm. In terms of Freddie, difficult one to talk about at the moment because there's a little bit going on behind the scenes. He's been a bit part player, I would say, throughout the season, and he's had situations where he's come into the team and done really well. But the problem with Freddie is for 3 games or so will be absolutely brilliant, and then for the following 6 you'll see nothing. He doesn't work particularly hard out of possession, which for us is a big thing in the way that we play. We're actually the most intensive out of possession within League One statistically. So he struggles a little bit with that, and he's been left out of the squad in the last couple of games also, despite his goal record. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him at the end of the season. He is out of contract, but we do have a year option on him, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But there's so many people that you could talk about within this team. Chidozie Ogbene, recently in the last couple of games has moved inside as we move more towards a 3-4-3, and his pace has caused so many issues for defences across the division this season, either out wide or more centrally. Yeah, I mean, where do you want me to go with this?
No, it's fine. This was plenty of good ones. I've written a few down. Obviously, Victor Johansson, very good goalkeeper at this level. Still only 23 as well, so got plenty of improvement in him. Michael Ehekwe as well, very good at this level. Richard Wood, loads and loads of experience, leadership skills. Ben Wiles as well has played plenty. Shane Ferguson, loads of experience. Ex-Millwall, I think, as well. One player I wanted to talk about, who's a player that's actually made a step up, though, I think, was Ollie Rathbone. I believe you signed him from Rochdale last summer. How good's he been stepping up? Because obviously he was playing in a struggling Rochdale side for a couple of seasons and was standing out in a poor team. And that's no disrespect to Rochdale, but it's different levels, like anything in football. So how's he managed to make the step up from playing as a big fish in a little pond struggling to a bigger pond, but obviously still having a positive impact on a side that's now at completely the opposite end of the table?
So we picked up Ollie after a pre-season friendly in which he absolutely dragged us apart, and we had to sign him at that point, and he's been nothing short of brilliant for the majority of the season. I call him the Duracell bunny because he just does not stop running, and we're so intense in the way that we press, and this guy just covers every blade of grass that you could possibly want. He shows heart, endeavour that you'd always want to see from your side. Loves a tackle, yeah, I mean, in terms of box to box midfielders, I don't think there's many better in the league, to be honest. Also gives away quite a few fouls and yellow cards, so if you get him on a yellow, then you might have a chance Saturday. But for us, he's been part of a really strong midfield three this year. We've got Dan Barlasser, who we call the Geordie Pirlo, unplayable at this level and looks a cut above when he's on form. The way that he can ping the ball out to either wing is integral to the way that we move the ball so quickly out to those wide areas to get those crosses into the box. And then, of course, Ben Wiles, who you mentioned, I think he's probably our best technical player. He's came into the side through our academy system and wasn't initially given the chance to play in his best position, which is that, moving into a 10 position, I would say. Excelled this season and been a real force of creativity for his 8 goals and six assists. So we've got goals, assists, and a really strong midfield three, and that's bossed League One, to be honest, this year.
And obviously, the mastermind behind it all is Mr. Rotherham, who's been there a long time now. Obviously, I think it was physio to our former manager Steve Evans and Paul Rayner when they had success with the Millers, going back almost a decade now. I think it is. Was it 13, 14, wasn't it, that you got promoted, did back to back, didn't you, as well? So, and then stepped up to be manager. Obviously, there's this not running joke. That's probably the wrong word, but obviously outside of Rotherham, where you become a yo-yo club. You've literally gone up and down for the last 5, 6 seasons or whatever it is. But what is the general consensus? Because I know there was murmurings back when you had that dodgy run that you've already mentioned, and obviously there has been relegations to go with the promotions. But how much has he got in the bank in terms of credit, so to speak, and just how well loved is he around Rotherham?
I guess it depends on which Rotherham United fan people you're talking to be honest. I think when you're 15 points clear at the top of the table, or 15 points clear, of MK in 3rd place, and then you're at this point, there's a few people that have said if we don't get promoted, he shouldn't be at the club, which for me is a little bit reactionary and over the top. There's a lot of clubs that are in a lot worse situations than us, quite frankly. For me, culturally, he's completely changed the way that we operate, and I wouldn't want another manager in charge of my football club because of the way that he presents himself. He's adapted so much over the last 6 years or so and become a much better manager than he was. He initially mentioned that he never really wanted to be a manager. He sort of took it to help the club and put it in a better position when he left it. And he's really grown into that role and surrounds himself with great coaches as well. We've got Matt Amshaw and Richie Barker, who've been integral to the success that we've had this season and previous seasons as well, and Andy Warrington. I know we've got an unbelievable analyst on within the club at the moment as well, and it feels like certainly off the pitch we're growing significantly, as well as obviously getting the results on the pitch, which is really pleasing.
Right, you can now become Paul Warne for the next couple of minutes. No press conferences have been done yet. We know that it's we record before they come out. They usually both clubs do on Thursday, I think, on Twitter. So, from your knowledge of who's injured, who's suspended, from a Miller's point of view, what's Paul Warne's 11 going to be come 12:30 Saturday lunchtime?
I mean, $1 million question, isn't it? I'd be very, very surprised to see much change from Tuesday night against Sunderland. I know there'll be a few tired legs because most of that side also played against Oxford. But I think when you've got one game to go and, you know, the situation that we're all in, the adrenaline sort of takes over, doesn't it? It's one game to get you to where you want to be, hopefully. So I would imagine, I mean, Victor will definitely start in goal because Josh Vickers, who's been unbelievable for us, has unfortunately injured his hand. The back three, I would imagine, will probably stay the same. So that'll be Richard Wood Marshall in the defence with Romani Edmonds-Green and Michael Heckway either side of him. He will play Wes Harding at left or right wing back, and then Jordi Asai at on the other side. Both have played either position at any point this season, so rotatable at any point. Midfield three pretty much picks itself now. Rathbone, I can't even speak. Rathbone, Barlasser and Wiles, Ogbene, and Michael Smith up top, I would imagine.
Strong, goody.
I mean, and then potentially, you know, if you're not playing 3-5-2, you can move that to a 3-4-3 and have Wiles on the left side and Ogbene on the right side with Smith up top, which is what we did against Sunderland. So there's a number of different ways. I think from looking at your formations over the last couple of weeks or so, in terms of formation, it'll be quite similar setup. So it'll be interesting to see how both sides sort of work against each other on that.
Yeah, we've predominantly played a back 3/5, whether you're in and out of possession or however you want to label it, and how you set it up on various apps or whatever. Yeah, so we've not gone away from it too much, and that's because we don't have the personnel in forward areas, unfortunately, because of injuries, and because we run with a small squad, unfortunately, such is life down at the bottom end. And we know how much Steve Evans likes to talk about a budget, and Harris is having to work with someone else's tool. So we run with what we've got, and let's hope from our point of view that for 90 minutes we can have one big more push, and like you said, that adrenaline can hopefully get us where we want us to be as well, and maybe a draw will be enough for both of us. But before we get on to the score prediction, Aaron Chapman is starting goal for the Gills. He's been superb since he came in under Neil Harris. Had to play second fiddle for the big part of the season under when Jamie Cumming was here before he got recalled by Chelsea, and is now part of a promotion push with MK Dons. I can't see the back three changing, so that'd be Max Emar in the middle, and it'd be Jack Tucker and Connor Masterson either side. Robbie McKenzie, who's played left wing back and right wing back this season, he had to come off against Fleetwood, what looked like ankle ligament damage. He missed the Portsmouth game, so I can't see him being fit. So it'd be Ryan Jackson from the right and David Tutonda from the left. Stuart O'Keefe, another question mark. Unfortunately, we've been patching him up, giving him injections and painkillers to get him through games. He played half at Portsmouth last week, had to come off. He played first half against Fleetwood Easter Monday, had to come off. Can we get him strapped up, patched up to get through 90 minutes? He's our captain, he's our leader. He makes us a better football team. If he's fit, he has to start. So it'd be Stuart O'Keefe in the middle. I personally would pull Ollie Lee out of the team. I've had this chat on thousands of videos. It feels like this season he's not an orthodox centre midfielder for me. He's number 10. So I would play Ben Thompson, who we got in on deadline day from Millwall, along with Neil Harris. I'd play him next to O'Keefe if he's fit. Ben Reeves in the 10, who's been decent the last few weeks, goals and assists. So he's been contributing. If we can get him on the ball in the final third, we can try and make things happen. We've got to get away from just this big long ball to Dane Oliver, because you've got 3 top class centre backs at this level, and he, as much as he wins everything in the air, 1 against 3, you do simple maths, he's not going to create loads. Bit of a left field pick for me. If I was picking the team, I'd go Gerald Sitole up front with Dane Oliver in a 3-4-1-2, purely because he's unknown. I'd imagine Rotherham don't know a lot about him, and the fact that he's got pace. We need someone to try and stretch it. We need someone to try and move Richard Wood around and get him out of the middle and get him out of his comfort zone, and then we can try and find gaps for the others to run into. So I'd play him and Dane Oliver up front. But I think Neil Harris probably play it safe and either play Tom Dixon-Peters as the centre forward with Dane Oliver because he's played more recently, or he'd go with 2 number 10s again, which would probably mean Ollie Lee comes in at the expense of Sitole, and then we'd have Reeves and Thompson off of Dane Oliver. The bench would basically be who's left. Although there was one player that I did mention at the top of the show, that's Mustafa Carriol. Gills were training at the Priestfield yesterday and put out a couple of videos and photos, and I did reply and tag him in a tweet and said, is that Mr. Mustafa Carriol in the background? He has liked the tweet today, so fingers crossed he might be available. He's certainly not someone I'd keep at the club beyond the end of the season at 33 and being injury prone, but he is one player that if we can get 45 minutes or 25 minutes out of him in a tight game that could run at defenders, especially if they're tiring, get us into dangerous areas, win us free kicks in dangerous areas. So he could have the biggest short-term part to play come Saturday if he is fit to get on the pitch at some point. So I'd have him on the bench.
And I think just nipping into that, if I may, a lot of issues that we've had is when teams have maybe, you've mentioned there, you go long to Dane Oliver quite a lot, but when teams have worked the ball quickly into those channel areas and pulled defenders out of position, we have struggled to deal with it at times. So having a little bit of pace up top with Sitole could work really well for you. Well,
I'm sure Neil Harris is watching, and I'm sure that'll be the 11 now.
He's also got to win that midfield 3 battle. That is probably where the game's going to be won or lost for me.
Which is why we need Stuart O'Keefe fit. We need him to get through at least 75 minutes, because without him, we'll suddenly look very flaky. We'll have probably 3 in there that are all a bit the same. We've got Daniel Phillips as well as another option, lone player from Watford, but 3 red cards this season. All for stupid things, fighting, 2 yellow cards, dissent, silly rugby tackles on the halfway line. Can we trust him to be disciplined for 90 minutes in a game of this magnitude? Maybe not. Right. Score prediction. I've written mine down, probably with my heart more than my head. Yeah, I know. I felt like that. I felt like that watching the Sheffield Wednesday game on Twitter last night. Christ knows what I'm going to be like on Saturday morning.
Oh, this is a difficult one.
Draw could potentially be good enough for both of us, couldn't it?
Yeah.
A draw could potentially not be enough for either of us as well.
I'll be completely upfront and honest and say I think with the couple of performances that we've put in over the last week or so, if we perform like that, Gillingham shouldn't be able to get near us. And this should be
your second, we're 21st.
2 or 3-0. But I also know how much pressure is on the game. I know how much both sides want it. I know how, looking at the stats, these are 2 sides that don't pass the ball, are very direct, very focused around set pieces in the way that they score the goals. It could be a really, really scrappy, 1 goal either way game as well. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and say 1-0 Millers. And I think it's going to be a really late one because that's the way that Rotherham do it. And I think there's probably going to be some form of death on that scaffolding.
There could be some sort of death in the Rainham end as well, especially if Fleetwood are not winning and we're picking up the point. And then you score late on, but for different reasons. Yeah, I mean, I'm torn between head and heart. Again, if you look at the form, you look at the comparative positions in the league, you should be comfortable. You beat us 5-1 in the reverse fixture. I know we had a lot of players injured. We had kids on the bench and no options. I think half the team that played probably weren't fit as well, but, you know, such is life. Head says probably, 2-1, 3-1 to Rotherham, especially if you score first. That'll make it really hard for us. We don't come from behind. We don't score enough goals. But if we can still be in it with 20 minutes to go and hopefully Fleetwood are getting beat at Bolton, Hart is saying draw, because I think Plymouth will get something against MK Dons. So I'm hoping and praying that a draw could be enough for both of us to get where we want to be, and then there can be one almighty party, not on the pitch because we're not allowed, but probably on the pitch. So yeah, Head says Miller's win. Hart says a point each. You get promoted and we stay in League One. Oh God, I'm a mess already now. Oh, this ain't going to be fun, is it?
All the feels.
Another couple of sleepless nights. At least it's an early kickoff. We can get it all over and done with a bit earlier than normal, rather than having to wait around all morning.
Yeah, I mean it's a 7 o'clock set off for us to get to you guys. So a nice and early one, but it'll be worth it. Hopefully, come 2:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, it's part of me that
Less
just
so
wants
if
to
we're
get to
facing,
2:30, just because at
playoff
least I'll
football.
know one way or the other. So, well, at least then it won't
That's
be
it.
Michael Smith's last game for you Saturday.
Yeah, I really hope not. He's been brilliant. So, I mean, I definitely don't want to see 2 games of him in playoffs at this stage. Hopefully, he can bag an hat-trick and send us out in the right way. Maybe not for you guys, but yeah, it'd be nice.
We've got to look after our own, haven't we? Anyway, Michael Smith's been brilliant for Rotherham. Will, you've been brilliant. It's been superb fun. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.
Gills fans, Millers fans, you know where we are. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Get commenting down below once this is on YouTube. Let us know your score predictions. Let us know what you think your team's lineups will be. There's any League Two fans out there. Come and subscribe. I might need to talk to you next season. Unfortunately, such is life. There's any Championship fans, go and find some Rotherham podcasts and YouTube channels, because they might need to talk to you next season. We don't know. This is the beauty of this division. It's been brilliant from a neutral perspective. It's not great when you're right in the middle of it at the moment, but Will does have the safety blanket of a potential playoff push. We have no margin for error. Right, that's enough from us. Again, thanks to Will. It's been superb fun. Myself and Boz and potentially Stocky and Glenn and whoever else wants to come on, we'll be back Saturday for a match day live. The final one this season, probably the biggest one since I started doing the channel back in February 2017, aside from Northampton away on the final day of 16-17, where we were in a similar position. Come and say hello. Fingers crossed that by Monday, when I have to do a Monday review, that it's something positive to talk about and we're still a League One football club, and that Will's team are potentially a Championship football club. Thanks for all your support all over the season. Please keep liking, subscribing, letting people know that we're there. But until next time, up the Gills.